The Hornets bounce back with a big win over Windthorst. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Muenster ISD Football Show, right here on L4 Media and S2SSport.com as the Hornets dispatch of Windthorst 56-21. Now, of course, I always give these little game recaps, and I know most of y'all were either at the game or no, but for the fans that might not have known, this was actually a pretty back-and-forth game early. And then a big third quarter by the Hornet offense and a big game overall for the offense. We're now talking, I haven't seen the stats from Fort Worth Lake County game or country game. It's 54-6. I don't know how long everybody played, but I do know back-to-back games, Holiday, a very good team, even though they lost to a really solid, maybe underrated 4A Benbrook. We'll have to see. Benbrook does this. They'll look good, and then you'll think, man, I'm going to look back at them at the end of the season and see where they're at, and you'll see that they missed the playoffs and they're like 5-5, or they get in the first round and they get their doors beat off of them. But they beat Holiday last week. But anyway, point being, back-to-back weeks for the Hornets, over 500 yards of total offense. This past week, over 600 total yards of offense. 291 through the air. 232, I think, through the air, 391 on the ground. I mean, that's just mine. Either one of those stats is pretty darn good. Combine them against a solid Windthorst team. They're young. They're going to take some bumps and bruises here early, but Windthorst will be back when it comes playoff time. And next year, they kind of, and I think Coach Carney, I can't remember if he said this on the air or when we were talking before we started recording, that he thought that Windthorst kind of reminds him of Muenster last year. Going to take some bumps and bruises, but you're going to start seeing that development of those sophomores as the season goes on. But a good win for Muenster. They move on, and lo and behold, another 3A team that's a really, really good one in Pottsboro. We'll be talking, of course, to Coach Carney about the win against Windthorst and the game against Pottsboro. And we have a couple of coaching terminology questions. We had an email from I'm assuming a Muenster fan. All he said was his name was Fred. Didn't have his email, didn't have his name or anything. He just said, "Hey, I'm Fred, and could you ask Coach Carney about a term he used last week?" So we have that in there, and we also start talking about angles and all that. I always have a lot of fun talking to Coach Carney because we end up kind of going off into things like that. But we'll do all that when we come back right here on the Muenster Hornet Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media. Do you have a kid that plays sports? Are you yourself a weekend warrior? Then I'm going to tell you something. Check out NeuroGuardPlus.com. That's NEURO GuardPlus.com. It's a mouthpiece that can not only help with concussions, but can dramatically affect the way you perform. And the mission of NeuroGuard is to, of course, reduce the risk of suffering a concussion when participating in any contact sport, military, anything that you're doing physical that you could take a blow to the head. You might want to put in a NeuroGuard mouthguard. And as I said, it not only helps eliminate concussions, it helps you perform better by simply aligning your jaw properly. And that sounds like such a simple thing, but it is so important because it allows oxygen to get to your brain. And when you get oxygen to the brain, you don't have that fog of sports or that fog of war where you get confused. And if you've ever played football, you know that's a sport where that can happen. Especially, man, you're in there in the trenches and you take a shot to the side and all of a sudden things are spinning. This mouth guard will help you keep focus by, again, simply keeping oxygen going to your brain 100%. Again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com. And if you play sports, if you have a kid that plays sport, if you do something physical, one of the things that Dr. Hutchinson, the creator of this, was talking about was some people will use it when they're doing yard work and when they're mowing and things like that, where they're being physically active because they know it helps align their jaw and it keeps oxygen going to the brain, which also helps your lungs, by the way, when you can have full breath every time as you're performing. So again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball.
Terry Bennett back here on the Muenster Football Show, now joined by the head coach of the Hornets, Coach Brady Carney. And, Coach, first off, great win last week against Windthorst, 56-21. The score, though, doesn't really tell the game. For the first half, this was a back-and-forth game.
Yeah, first half was a good game. We got the ball first, went down and scored, looked really good. Offensive line was doing a great job. We were getting 4 and 5 yards a pop with our run and hit a couple play action balls and scored that first one. I thought we played well up until the end of the first quarter. Kind of had a funky deal happen with a punt. We punted. They fair caught it but fumbled it, and we recovered it. So it would have been our ball in really good position. And there was an inadvertent whistle about halfway through the punt. So they made us redo it. And at that point, you could just kind of see the wind go out of our sails a little bit. I don't know why, but it did. And Windthorst played really good there from the middle of the end of the first through the second. And then we had a funky play right before half for us where we snapped it about the time they blew the whistle for ball in play. Well, the Windthorst kid stopped. Our kid stopped. Kaysen kind of looked around like, do I hand it to the official? No one said anything, so Kaysen rolled out to his left and threw it to Garrett Hess for a touchdown and tied it up. But two really funky plays there in the first half that equaled touchdowns for both teams. And then we went into the locker room at half, made a few adjustments here and there, and the kids refocused and came out and played a really good third quarter. Opened it up big time in the third, and then we were able to get some other kids playing time during the fourth period.
Y'all, in the first 3 games, especially the last 2, y'all have had some weird special team stuff. You had the kickoff that most coaches would take it to 30, and Holiday decides not to, and then they run that back, and then this. It's just been a weird special teams year for y'all so far.
Yeah, like I said, and we were in great position. Our gunners got down there. They set up right in front of the kid that fair caught it. He bobbled it. We recovered it, and I heard the whistle about halfway, while the ball was in the air. It's almost like they blew it dead when the kid fair caught it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of letting him complete the catch, they went ahead and blew it dead. They knew they made a mistake, but then we had to re-kick it, and it just all kind of went downhill after that. But really proud of the kids for how they adjusted at halftime and recovered and came out and played a great third quarter.
Yeah, that third quarter was amazing. And for the game, back-to-back weeks where y'all have over 500 yards of total offense. This week you had 600, 230 through the air, almost 400 on the ground. I mean, you've got to be loving the balance y'all are having right now.
Yeah, we were, back whenever we were really solid in the 16, 17, 18, time frame, kind of playing the way we are now, we were really balanced back then with those guys as well. We're probably 60-40, as far as run pass. But in the past, as far as passing, we were always efficient back then, and we've been pretty efficient so far this year. We're completing anywhere from 60 to 70% of our passes when we need them. And Garrett Hess is an exceptional wide out for us at 6'3", has some great hands, does an amazing job. Caden Clement, he's 6'4". He's another kid we use as a wide out, a tight end. And Kaysen's got some really good targets. Hayden Flightman, Maverick Byer, list goes on. And then the main thing is it starts up front with our offensive line and the things those guys are doing to allow our kids to have space to run is pretty amazing, considering our lack of size, I guess you could say, up front.
Well, and you talk about that, and we talked about that against Holiday, and we'll talk about it again this week when you're playing Pottsboro. And when you don't have a big line, that's when technique becomes so important for offensive linemen.
It is, and scheme too. It's one of those things where, like this week, for example, Pottsboro, man, they're huge up front. They run a lot of inside zone where they just kind of double and push on people and stuff where – we can't do that because we're not very big. So we do a lot of blocking down and pulling some of our guards. Rhett Waltershide's an exceptional guard for us. Tate Sampson, Payson Wiley, those guys are 180 pounds, 185 pounds. They can run a little bit. So we kind of block down and pull them out in space and let our kids get out in space and see if they can make something happen. And so far this year, they've been able to do that, which, like you said, it's a real positive for us.
And you talk about, scheme and technique. And one of the things that I have enjoyed about football being spread out more is you get angle blocking, and you get now coaches say things like our blocking has to fit. And when a coach says that, what do they mean?
Well, for us, it's all about angles. So we want to block down on techniques inside of us and then pull people. That's kind of how we use it. Some people call it pin and pull.
Yeah.
At the bigger levels, for us, it's about angles, and we usually use our guards to pull because they're our undersized, faster guys, and our tackles, who aren't huge by any means, but they're able to maintain a down block long enough to let our guards get outside, like I said. And we kick a lot of people, and man, we used to be able to cut people, and that was kind of what we were known for, and they took that out of the game. So we've had to adjust a little bit, but our guards do an exceptional job blocking in space, and that's something a wide receiver has to do, and we feel like our guards do just as good a job as our wide receivers do blocking in space.
Speaking of using football terms, we had an email from last week's show. They wanted to know, when you brought up talking about your secondary players, that they were in phase. Explain to fans what you mean by a cornerback or a secondary player, or even a linebacker being in phase when it comes to pass coverage.
So we use that a lot with our secondary guys. That's a phrase that Coach Smiley used a ton when he was my DC here with us, and of course it's carried over, and that's what a lot of DB coaches use. But for us, it's a matter of if you're not able to physically touch the guy, you're not in phase. So you got to work back to get in phase. So that's how we use it. I hope that makes sense. But like if a corner and a wide receiver, let's say the wide receiver's 2 yards in front of him and he can't touch him, he can't feel him, he's got to get his eyes back on him and get back in phase where he can make a play on the ball. I mean, there's no way you can make a play on the ball if you're out of phase and he's 4 yards in front of you. So we always talk about out of phase, getting your eyes back on the receiver, get back in phase so you can at least play the ball, have a chance at that point to make a play on the ball. So that's kind of where we use that phrase, in phase.
All right, appreciate that. All right, now let's move over to Pottsboro, the Cardinals. You know them well. This year they've started out well, 3 wins, 2 solid teams, and then a Mount Vernon team that's kind of rebuilding. When you look at the film, what do you think, thoughts on Pottsboro?
Man, it's funny because Coach Poe, I think he's been there longer than I've been here. I think this is my 16th season. He's probably going with 17 or 18. And, I can pop the film on every year, and it's the same stuff every year. He's just consistent with what he does, and the kids learn it at a young age, and they're able to execute it growing up, and they do a fantastic job with doing what they do each and every year and doing a really good job with it. And it's no different this year. The only thing that's different this year, honestly, is I think this may be the biggest Pottsboro team that I've seen on film. They are huge up front, man. I talked to Coach Poe the other day, asking him if he had those guys at all-you-could-eat buffet every day at lunch, and he just said, yeah, man, they like to eat. And I said, yeah, they like to eat a lot because they are freaking big and strong. But that's the one thing, losing Major last year, he's an exceptional player. So they've changed as far as, maybe I don't want to say the running back's not as good as Major, but it's hard to be that good. He's a different style running back. Where Major, he could run over you, around you, or through you, or whatever he wanted to do. This kid's looking for a crease, and if he hits it, he's gone because he's got good speed. The quarterback's an exceptional player. He's a junior. Kaysen and our junior's been playing against him since he was little. He's got a good arm, throws a good football, and then I think he's probably a better runner, to be honest with you, than what they've had at quarterback since they went on their state championship or state title game appearance a few years ago. And then they've got an exceptional wideout, number 2. I can't remember his name, but he's a really good player too. But man, it is funny because you can pop the film on and they're going to be in the same 5 or 6 formations every single year. And it doesn't matter because you know what's coming, but man, they can execute it to a T and very successful with it. And, we've talked about coaches and stability. And to me, Pottsboro is one of those with Coach Poe. They've had him forever and have been successful for a long time with him, and he does a really good job. Defensively, they went to a 33 stack look, which they ran last year and run it again this year. Do a good job with it. They're big up front with their D-line, got 3 really good linebackers that run fast, and then, of course, good athletes in the back end. So, man, just a good football team, and like I say every week, we've got a tough schedule, but it definitely makes us better. And we can go out and compete with these guys, learn from it, win or lose. I think it'll make us better. And if we can stay away from the pick sixes and the kickoff returns like Holiday, I think we can make a game of it. So hopefully we come out, play a physical game on Friday, put the effort into it like we've been doing, stay away from the mistakes, and just make a good game out of this one because this game's going to definitely make us better.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. If you do have a question, thought, or comment for me or for Coach Carney, all you got to do is email me, Terry, at s2ssport.com, like Fred did. I have a couple other ones I'm going to read next week. We're going to have some fun with one of them. But, yeah, you can always do that. You can also find us on Facebook, Sideline to Sideline, or L4 Media, or both. Like both of those pages. You can also email us at S2ssport. You can also find us on Twitter at S2ssport and at Grant and Terry. By the way, Grant and Terry, that's Sideline to Sideline. We talk 2A, 3A, and 4A each and every week here on L4 Media, so please check that out as well. This is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to play out a little bit like the Holiday game with maybe I think Holiday's a little bit more athletic. They have a little bit more big play in them than Pottsboro. Not saying Pottsboro doesn't have big plays, so if they do have some big plays, please don't email me saying, I thought you said they didn't have big plays. I'm comparing Holiday and Pottsboro. Pottsboro is way bigger. That's one thing Coach Carney talked about on the air and off the air. I mean, they are big. And, Pottsboro's always got what I like to call basketball size. They've always got a bunch of 6'2" guys. It feels like every wide receiver for Pottsboro the last 15 years is 6'1", 6'2". But on the offensive line especially, they have legitimate beef. I mean, they have a line that just size-wise would play up into even 5A. I'm not saying they're all that talented. They are, though. I mean, they're really good. But I'm just saying size-wise. I mean, you're talking, and there is some real good talent, too. Again, I don't want people to think I'm trying to say that they don't have talent. This Pottsboro offensive line, to me, is maybe the biggest strength of this team this year. And that's a good strength to have because they're just so big. When you look at across the line, you've got at least, 2 300-pounders. Carson Culp, maybe one of the best offensive linemen on any level. He's getting D1 offers. He's 6'3", 360. Paul Elrod, he's listed at 290, but I think he's a little bit bigger. I think he's around 300 pounds. You got Kason Watson, who plays D-line. He'll play some spot offensive line at times as well. He's like 275. And so that's going to be a big test for this Muenster defense, but I do think I do think they can limit the big plays of Pottsboro. Again, that's a lot of the Holiday game was big plays and not all on offense. We kind of talked about it with Coach about, it's just been a weird special teams year already. Just weird things have happened on special teams for Muenster. You hope that's not like a theme all year that's bad. You hope maybe A, that it doesn't happen again, or B, it becomes some of the good things start to be weird for special teams for Muenster. But either way, another good test for the Hornets as district play is approaching, 2 more weeks? Well, technically 3 because there's a bye week before the Lindsay district opener. That's going to be a fun one, man. Look at the 8-2A so far, 8-2A Division 2. We all knew the teams, Muenster and Collinsville and Lindsay, and so far all 3 have done it. Combined 8-1 with the one loss being Muenster to a very good 3A Holiday team. 8-2A Division 2 at the very top is going to be a dogfight. And then you got a team like Santo. They're 2-1, and so we'll have to see. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week. We'll talk next week, right here on the Muenster Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.